Secret Bishui Cave is a hidden area in Chapter 5. Not only do you obtain the materials used to craft the excellent Wukong set here, but you also need to complete this area to do battle with Erlang Shen, the sacred divinity, and get the game's secret ending. So in today's video, I'm going to try to cover some of the trickier parts of finding Secret Bishui Cave. There's a lot to this, so there are some parts that I'm going to skip over, as they're directly tied to your main story progress in Chapter 5. It's also important to note that your progress on this quest varies depending on if you did or didn't interact with Matianba, the horse guy, previously in your journey. And while you can enter Bishui Cave after defeating the final boss of Chapter 5, you won't be able to finish Matianba's quest in the process if you already started it. Yes, I know, that's already a lot, things are already getting complicated, but I'll do my best to break down some of the more tricky sections and the order in which you need to complete things. And with that said, if you want to know how to defeat the final boss of Chapter 5, the Yaksha King, do be sure to get subscribed and leave a like while you're down there. You first begin this quest after defeating the Pale Stalwart right at the start of Chapter 5. He's in the middle of a battle with some surrounding revenants, and blinded by the rage battle, he attacks you as well. After winning the fight, speak to him and exhausting his dialogue options before moving on to kill the first elemental cart. Now he mentions that there's 5 elemental carts that you need to defeat to enter Bishui Cave. Or more accurately, he says there's 5 you need to defeat and doesn't really give you too many of the details. There's actually only 4 carts that you need to beat in battle. 3 of these carts, the brown iron cart, the gray bronze cart, and the crimson silver cart, are all directly along the path you take to complete the main story, so I'm not really going to be elaborating about them in the video. The important thing to remember is after defeating the brown iron cart and gray bronze cart, you need to return to the Pale Axe Stalwart's location. You'll find him up on a ledge overlooking a very nice vista, right near where you first encountered him. Speak to him again, exhaust his dialogue before moving on. You will need to speak to him again after defeating the Crimson Silver cart, but the order on that one is a little bit more complicated. So the rest of the video is going to focus on the Broken Cart and the Rusty Gold Cart. You encounter the Broken Cart in the Furnace Valley. So, start from the waypoint, run down the ridge until you get an opportunity to jump off the side into the lava. After doing that, continue kind of straight at a diagonal. Very shortly, you should see the Broken Cart guarded by a Gwai that looks very similar to the Macaque Chief from Chapter 3. Now this is where things get complicated. When I did this quest, I was on Matianba's questline. So, I can very much speak on that, but my understanding is if you didn't interact with Matianba at all, and you have no interest in completing his quest, you either won't need to interact with this card at all, or there'll be a whip that you can interact with, but nothing much happens after you exhaust the dialogue and you can simply move on. Again, I'm not sure because in my playthrough I did do his questline. So, if you did his questline, you'll pull the whip, you'll get some dialogue, but you won't be able to resolve it. To resolve it, you need to go to the Emerald Hall and defeat the Keeper of Flaming Mountains and his yin-yang fish. As part of this fight, he summons an image of Matianba, who attacks you. After you defeat that, return to the cart, pull out the whip, you get the Dark Thunder transformation. Congratulations, you've brought that questline to a close, you have a new transformation spell, and now this cart should count as resolved. Also, as a little bonus, continue exploring the lava field, defeat the Flint Chief, and you get one of the 3 materials needed to craft the Staff of Blazing Karma. It's a pretty nice weapon, though technically you do get one that's basically just as good after defeating the Golden Bishui Beast. So, after you've dealt with both the Broken Cart and the Crimson Silver Cart, the Pale Axe Stalwart should take the Crimson Silver Cart's place. You then talk to him, exhaust your dialogue, and continue on with the main story. If you don't find him here, either A, this means you didn't fully resolve the Broken Cart, or B, it means you didn't fully exhaust his dialogue when you spoke to him a second time. So go back, talk to him again, really exhaust all of his dialogue, teleport back, see if he's there. If you do teleport back to the Woods of Ember to meet up with the Pale Axe Stalwart and he's not there, that is a sign that he should be at the new location just beyond the Emerald Halls. So with all of that done, you should be ready to find the entrance to the cave. This is found on the lava cooling slope in the Field of Fire. So again, to access that, you need to make your way up the slope and progress the story to the point where Ping Ping uses the plantain fan to dispel all the fires. Otherwise, there's going to be a fire barricade that blocks you from progressing, even if technically you have a fireproof mantle and can just walk through those flames without taking any damage. I don't know, invisible wall things. So after you've done that, you can either reach the lava cooling slope by heading up from the Ashen Pass 3 shrine, or down from the Furnace Crater shrine. But for this part, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough, showing you how to get there from the Ashen Pass shrine. You basically just head up the area where you had to dodge the rolling metal sphere, then at about the midpoint, you turn right. Now from here, it's a straight shot down to the Lava Cooling Slope Shrine, the Rusty Gold Cart, and Bishui Cave. On the way though, you may want to defeat both the Flint Vanguard and the Mother of Flamelings. Flint Vanguard is something that you encounter as you go down naturally. It's a big old rock guy. He can be pretty annoying, so feel free to pop your resources. On the other hand, to fight the Mother of Flamelings, you need to kill some regular Flamelings, get Flame Ore, and offer it at this giant fire pool about halfway down the slope. If you do this, you fight her, and should you defeat both of these optional bosses, you should have enough materials to craft the Staff of Blazing Karma, plus a few new spirits for your troubles. So once you reach the bottom of the slope, you should see a large area with what looked like a wall of ice blocking your passage further down. Once you enter here, if you've done everything up until this point correctly, the Rusty Gold Cart spawns and attacks you. Now, if you've had no problem so far defeating the other carts, you probably won't have too much trouble here, though I do strongly recommend that you have the Fireproof Mantle equipped, and if your weapon needed an upgrade, maybe stick on the Staff of Blazing Karma. This cart really does work very similarly to the others. Basically, if you're standing in front of a cart, it directly attacks you, breathes fire, sometimes shoots projectiles. If you move to the side, it vents flame, and if you get behind it, it switches to reverse and tries to run you over. But here are a few particularly notable attacks, some of which can be annoying to deal with. First up, the Fire Breath is a frontal cone. You can either use your Fireproof Mantle to negate the damage and completely just tank it. Do this if your health's low or you're struggling to get away. Alternatively, move away from the cart, let it finish the breath. Now sometimes it puts a bit of a spin on this, literally. Spins in a circle, breathing flames as it does. So you can dodge through the breath and allow the cart to rotate away from you. Now one attack that I found particularly annoying was after executing a sequence of melee attacks, it raises its arms and roars, releasing an explosion. It has a really fast animation, so I struggled to avoid it. If you notice that it's raising your hands, you can react by using Cloud Step to instantly build distance, but also you can just steep the attack and heal yourself up afterwards if you continue to struggle. Then last up, when the Rusty Gold Cart's hand glows red, that means it's going to use a grab attack and attempt to breathe fire on you. You can either dodge to avoid the swing, pop a transformation to prevent the grab, or just pop your Fireproof Mantle if you know you're going to get hit, as that'll prevent a majority of the damage. Overall, the cart is pretty resistant to damage, so the fight's a little bit long and annoying. But after you defeat it, you'll see a short cutscene where the Pale Axe Stalwart points you towards the ice wall before passing away. Interact with a wall, and it shatters. After that, you'll travel through a passage into a large open room and approach the central pillar to enter Bishui Cave. Now, within the cave, there is quite a bit of exploring and some normal enemies that you can defeat. I'm going to skip all that because, personally, I don't think it's super relevant, and the whole thing is a giant linear experience, so it's not like you can really get lost. What I am going to do, though, is talk a little bit about the two boss encounters within the cave. Top takes bottom, bottom takes top, that fun rolly iron sphere, and Bishui Golden-Eyed Beast, the boss at the end, which is the reason you're here. So the first boss you encounter is in a giant round arena. That is, top takes bottom, bottom takes top, the rolling iron ball. But this time, instead of being a collected invincible sphere, they separate and alternate between attacking you independently. Do be particularly careful using your charged heavy attacks, because they frequently jump into their hemisphere or raise it to shield themselves, and if they do when you're attacking, it will block most, if not all, of the damage from your attack. Now, for the most part, I didn't find them to be too difficult, but there are a few things to keep in mind. First, when focusing on one foe, try to keep the other in your peripheral vision. Throughout the course of a fight, they swap which one is active and which one is passive, so you need to keep an eye on the inactive boss to prevent yourself from being blindsided. Their most dangerous move happens when one of the bosses reaches 50% health. Both bosses jump together and combine into the giant rolling sphere of death. At this point, they take several passes rolling around the room attempting to run you over. This part's easy to dodge. They end that by jumping into the air and landing time and time and time again. There's about 5 total jumps. It's very annoying to dodge, but if you have Pillar Stance equipped, when they start doing this part, just hop up onto your staff and choose most of the mechanic. Also, both of them can jump into their hemisphere and roll towards you in kind of a charge attack. Just keep an eye on the boss and dodge it every time it passes. If you have a fireproof mantle on, the trail on the ground won't be an issue either. And aside of that, just keep an eye out for their regular attacks, do damage consistently. They don't have much health, but they're very difficult to burst down because they do periodically shield themselves. That said, there aren't really special phases where they get vastly more difficult. In fact, once you've taken one out, the other's much easier to deal with. So if you think you're confident in burning one down, go ahead and pop up like a many and see how it goes. Now the harder fight is found at the very end of a cave, against Bishui the Golden-Eyed Beast. Not only is Bishui fairly aggressive, but he really likes breathing fire and creating trails of fire and empowering his attacks with lava. In other words, yes, you really should have a fireproof mantle, and if you somehow haven't gotten it by this point, please do yourself a favor, go back to Chapter 1, and complete Elder Jinshi's quest. As far as I know, you can't actually lock yourself out of that one. Now, Bishui has a lot of health. There aren't really any special phases to this fight. So, you should use your mana for damage, do something like cast or pluck a many, and try to burst the boss down whenever a good opportunity presents itself, as opposed to saving it for a specific phase. Now, there are a few mechanics that personally I found to be pretty difficult, so I'm going to go over them now, and hopefully you can learn from some of my mistakes. First is, when Bishui roars and slams his claws into the ground, he's about to unleash a very powerful attack. This creates an explosion around the boss, which erupts again after a short delay. Get away from the boss. That way, you avoid the aftershock, or alternatively, if you're feeling really greedy, you can just stay close and time your dodges to try to get in some damage, but personally, I don't think it's worth it. Just get away and play it safe. Now, one of his more annoying attacks is his fire breath because it takes the form of a wide frontal cone, but it doesn't actually reach that far away from the boss, so you're able to quickly either get away or use something like Cloud Step to get behind the boss. Also, if you're caught flat-footed, especially if your health's low, pop your fireproof mantle. That way you should be able to tank the damage without issue. From time to time, he charges across the room, each time leaving a trail of fire. Now, this one isn't super difficult, just dodge as the boss approaches, kind of the same mechanic that you've been doing since Black Bear Guai at the very start of the game, but it is a bit annoying how much distance he covers and the fact that you can't really get damage on the boss while he's doing it. In addition to this, he has a frenzy attack where he leaps around in the air several times, dealing damage and causing a small eruption every time he lands. Again, this is one of those things where it's best to just get far away from the boss rather than trying to dodge each individual attack, then move in to deal damage afterwards. Last up, there's 2 attacks that I personally found he either only used at long range or are only really dangerous at long range. First is his aerial fireball, where he jumps into the air, kinda sits there for a second, shoots a fireball at you, then shoots a second fireball at you. Time your dodges to avoid the damage, pretty sure you can also deflect them with staff spin. Then second, some of his attack sequences end in a big slam. Now, it's easy to dodge by going left and right, but it sends a linear shockwave across the room that you need to dodge even if you aren't near the boss. However, if you are close to the boss, you should actively be trying to dodge around him to attack him from the side or behind anyway. Therefore, as you're naturally dodging his other attack sequences, you should be moving out of this and it's not too big of a deal. You really only have to look out for it if for whatever reason you dodged away from the boss, such as to avoid a breath attack. And so with all that said, here's how the fight against Bishui Golden-Eyed Beast went for me. Now with Bishui down, you're teleported back to the original cave. Before you leave, take a minute to explore your surroundings and find the frog Ba Lang Lang. He's in the water nearby, and he's one of the 6 frogs that you need to unlock one of the most overpowered summons. But after that, you should be good to go back to continuing the main story. Also, if you've been doing all the side quests and secret areas in Black Myth Wukong, this should be the last one that you need to enter Mount Mei and challenge Erlong the Sacred Divinity. But if you want some tips and tricks to beat him, more about that in a future video, do be sure to get subscribed and ring that notification bell to see when the video's uploaded. Now if you're looking for something else to watch, maybe check out some of the videos that I did on other secret areas and optional bosses, since you might need to go back and do a couple of them. On the other hand, if you're looking for something a bit different, maybe check out the video on my second channel about the games I've been playing recently. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Black Myth Wukong, but I've been playing a couple other things as well. Links to those will be up in the card and down below. On the other hand, if you want some written instructions or want to follow along with the guide again, you can head over to MaxrollGG, where I have a full written guide on how to find the cave and a few tips on how to defeat each of the bosses. Now, before I go, I'd like to take a minute to thank my patrons and channel members for the continued support. For as low as $1 a month, you can make videos just like this one possible. Link to support is down below. And a big thanks to everyone who watched to the end of the video. This one was surprisingly difficult to make, actually. Mostly because this quest was so confusing and I couldn't really tell which parts were tied to which quest states, i.e., because I did it while following the Horse Guy's quest, does that mean that you just don't have the option to interact with the cart? As far as I can tell, this isn't one of the quests that you can easily get locked out of, but unfortunately, as part of completing it, you can easily lock yourself out of a Horse Guy's quest. This is why it sometimes bugs me when games don't let you know that, hey, by continuing or doing this, you might lock yourself out of another quest. I'd at least like a heads up, you know? But hey, I'm glad you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.